He walked into a crowded bar on camera and never walked out. A 9-year-old girl slipped out of her bedroom during a storm and vanished into the dark. 13 priceless paintings disappeared from a museum. The FBI is still chasing them decades later. These cases didn't fade away. Detectives are still working the phones, testing new DNA, and reopening evidence that refuses to stay quiet. Tonight we're opening 9 active cold case files police won't close. Missing children, mass poisonings, family annihilations, and a $500 million art heist still unsolved. And in a few of these cases, the answer might already be sitting inside a box of evidence, waiting to be found. Case number 1. Nine-year-old Asha Degree should have been asleep in her bed. Instead, in the early hours of Valentine's Day 2000, she quietly packed a backpack, walked out of her family's home in North Carolina, and stepped into a cold, rainy night along Highway 18. Several drivers later reported seeing a small girl walking alone in the storm. When one turned around to check on her, she bolted off the road and into the woods. By morning, Asha was gone. Search teams found some of her belongings near the highway. Over a year later, her backpack was discovered 30 miles away, buried and wrapped in plastic. Investigators eventually stopped treating this as a simple runaway. They now believe she met someone out there, and that whatever happened next wasn't her choice. The FBI joined the case years later, and there's a significant reward for real information. Detectives have chased leads about a suspicious car, executed new search warrants, and publicly said they're convinced someone local knows what happened to Shelby's sweetheart. This isn't a file collecting dust. It's an open wound for a town that still puts her face on billboards. And she's not the only one who walked into the dark and never came back. On a spring night in 2006, med student Brian Shaffer went bar hopping in Columbus, Ohio, to celebrate the start of break. Security cameras show him riding an escalator up to a popular bar, the Ugly Tuna Saloona, talking with friends and 2 women near the entrance, then stepping just out of frame as if heading back inside. There's no footage of him ever leaving. When Brian missed a planned trip and stopped answering calls, his family knew something was very wrong. Police went through the tapes frame by frame. They checked every door, every hallway, even the nearby river. No trace. To this day, nobody can explain how he could enter a bar covered in cameras and never appear on any of them walking out. Theories range from a hidden back exit to foul play inside the building, to the idea that Brian somehow disappeared on purpose. None of those have ever been proven. Years later, authorities released an age-progressed image of what he might look like now, and still appeal for tips. For them, this isn't a legend about a bar with no exit. It's an active missing person investigation, with a family still waiting. But some open cases don't suffer from a lack of evidence. In the next one, there's almost too much. On New Year's Eve 2000 in Tokyo, the Miyazawa family went to bed in their home in the quiet Setagaya district. By morning, all 4, parents and 2 young children, were dead. What shocked Japan wasn't just the brutality of the crime. It was what the killer did after. Instead of fleeing, he stayed. He ate their food. He used their bathroom. He logged onto their computer. Then he carefully arranged the murder weapons, took off his bloody clothes, left them behind, and walked out. Police recovered a mountain of evidence: fingerprints, footprints, clothing, and the killer's DNA. Tests suggest he was of mixed East Asian and possibly European descent, with hints in his belongings that he'd traveled abroad. On paper, it looks like the perfect case for modern forensics. Yet decades later, there is still no match, no arrest, and no name. The investigation has been so big and so emotional that it helped push Japan to abolish the statute of limitations for serious crimes. Every year, police release fresh appeals and updated sketches. This is one of the rare cold cases where detectives know almost everything about their suspect, except who he is. And while this killer left evidence everywhere, our next mystery takes place in a landscape where almost nothing remains, except 11 victims in the sand. If you like this kind of calm, fact-based true crime, it really helps if you tap like, so YouTube keeps pushing these cold cases to more people. Now, back to the investigation. In 2009, a woman walking her dog on Albuquerque's West Mesa noticed a bone sticking out of the dirt. Police started digging. What they found turned a quiet patch of desert into a crime scene. The remains of 11 women and 1 unborn child, buried in shallow graves. Most of the victims were young Hispanic women who'd gone missing between 2001 and 2005. Many had struggled with addiction or were involved in sex work. It didn't take long for investigators to realize this wasn't a random tragedy. It was a pattern. One person, or one group, had been using the mesa as a dumping ground. The unknown killer became known as the West Mesa Bone Collector. There are a few strong persons of interest, men with violent histories toward vulnerable women, but no one has ever been charged. Satellites, tire tracks, and witness timelines give hints, not answers. Families and police mark anniversaries, keep memorials, and push a reward that can reach 6 figures. It's officially unsolved, but the case isn't closed. Detectives still say they want names, not just a nickname for a killer who treated people like trash. And this idea, that justice might arrive decades late, ties into another long-running mystery on a scenic road in Virginia. In the late 1980s, Virginia's Colonial Parkway looked like a peaceful place to park, talk, and look at the water. Instead, it became linked to a string of attacks and murders involving young couples in and around the area. Cars were found abandoned or staged. Victims were strangled, stabbed, or shot. The pattern was so haunting that investigators started talking about a possible Colonial Parkway killer. For years, the case went nowhere. Then, modern DNA tech finally cracked part of the puzzle. Recently, authorities announced that evidence links a man named Alan Wilmer Sr. to at least 2 of the double murders, and to another homicide from the same era. He'd even been on investigators' radar years earlier, but passed a lie detector test and slipped into the background before his death. The new DNA match gave some families a name after almost 4 decades. But not all of the suspected Parkway cases are officially solved, and investigators haven't ruled out the idea that more than one predator was at work. So even with a partial answer, the file stays open, and the lesson is clear. A case that looks hopeless today might look very different once the right piece of evidence hits the right lab. And speaking of evidence, the next story is about a case where the weapon was something millions of people already had in their homes. In 1982, people around Chicago started collapsing and dying after taking extra-strength Tylenol. 7 victims in a matter of days. The cause was terrifyingly simple. Someone had put cyanide into the capsules. Regular families bought them, took them for headaches, and never woke up. Stores pulled Tylenol off shelves. News anchors told viewers to stop taking it. The case changed everyday life. Tamper-evident seals, foil under the caps, redesigned packaging. All of that comes from this one series of poisonings. Investigators eventually decided the pills were likely tampered with after they left the factory and were placed on store shelves. There were suspects. One man even went to prison for trying to extort the company, but he was never convicted of the killings themselves. Decades later, police are still ordering new DNA tests on old evidence and re-interviewing people connected to the case. There are rumors and theories about who did it, including talk of deathbed confessions and overlooked suspects, but nothing solid enough to close the file. The result is a strange kind of ghost story. Millions of people still pop painkillers without thinking. But somewhere in an evidence locker, the real answer might be waiting. If a faceless poisoner can change how a whole country buys medicine, imagine what a faceless predator can do to one small community of families. In the late 1970s, 4 children in Oakland County, Michigan, were abducted and killed. They vanished from everyday places, walking home, going to a store, and their bodies were later found left in public locations days or weeks later. Disturbingly, they were often clean and neatly dressed, as if someone had been taking care of them before ending their lives. The media dubbed the unknown attacker the Oakland County child killer, and sometimes the babysitter, because of that twisted detail. It sparked one of the biggest manhunts in U.S. history. Multiple agencies chased thousands of leads. For a while, it seemed like any man with the wrong car or the wrong past could be the killer. Modern DNA testing finally found hair fibers on more than one victim that came from the same unknown person. Those hairs were also linked to a car used by a known offender. But here's the problem. The DNA isn't his. It belongs to someone else who shared that vehicle. Someone investigators still haven't identified. Other high-profile suspects have come and gone, only to be cleared by science. Families of the victims have refused to let the case fade. They've pushed for more testing, more attention, and more answers. Police now say they believe the killer is likely still alive. But until that unknown DNA matches a real person, the babysitter stays a shadow. And while that mystery centers around an unseen predator, our next case is about a suspect everyone knows, because he might be right there on the wanted poster. In 2011, neighbors in Nantes, France, noticed that the Dupont de Ligonnes family had gone quiet. No one was answering the door. Blinds stayed down. Eventually, police checked the property and made a grim discovery. Under the patio, buried in careful layers, were the bodies of the mother, Agnès, and the couple's 4 children. The one family member missing from the house was the father, Xavier. Investigators soon realized he'd been planning something for weeks. He had closed accounts, withdrawn cash, and told schools and acquaintances that the family was moving away under some vague, secret program. Days after the murders, cameras caught him at a budget hotel in the south of France. He walked out toward nearby woods with a bag and simply never reappeared. He's been the prime suspect ever since. Interpol has circulated his profile. Police have chased alleged sightings in multiple countries. At one point, a man was even arrested in another country after someone thought he recognized Xavier, but fingerprints proved it wasn't him. Some people believe he ended his own life in those woods and was never found. Others think he might have used his head start and money to build a new identity somewhere else. What authorities agree on is simple. The case is still open, and any solid tip about Xavier is treated as urgent. He's either a long-dead ghost in the mountains or an aging fugitive walking past people who have no idea what he's accused of. Not every open file is about a killer, though. One of the most famous is about stolen beauty and 13 empty frames that sit on a museum wall like scars. In the early hours of March 18, 1990, 2 men dressed as police officers rang the buzzer at Boston's Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. They said they were responding to a disturbance. The night guards broke the rules and let them in. It was the biggest mistake of their lives. The imposters handcuffed the guards in the basement and spent more than an hour moving through the galleries. By the time they left, 13 works of art were gone, including masterpieces by Rembrandt, Vermeer, and Degas. The haul has been valued at around $500 million. None of the artwork has ever been recovered. The museum still displays the empty frames exactly where the paintings used to hang, waiting for the day they come back. The FBI and the museum's own security team treat this as a very active case. There's a standing reward in the millions for information that leads to the safe return of all the pieces. no questions asked about how they were obtained. Investigators have followed leads into organized crime circles, storage units, and international black market rumors. Every few years, a new tip promises a breakthrough, only to fizzle out. Yet the people closest to the case insist they're not giving up. As long as those frames are empty, the Gardner heist isn't a story about the past. It's a question mark hanging on a wall. And that's really what all of these cases have in common. A child in a storm, a student in a bar, a family under a patio, women in a desert, kids in the suburbs, shoppers grabbing medicine, a missing father, 13 empty frames. On paper, these are cold cases. In reality, they're more like slow-burning fires. Detectives still pull old boxes from storage and run new DNA tests. Age-progressed photos get released. Families push for new laws, new attention, and new eyes on the evidence. Podcasts, documentaries, even videos like this keep these stories from fading away. Any one of these files could flip from unsolved to solved with a single match in a database or a single person finally deciding to talk. That's why police refuse to close them, and it's why, if any detail in this video jogged your memory, even a little, the official tip lines on these cases are always open. If you want to go deeper into one story, check out the full case file documentaries on this channel, including The Man Who Walked Into a Bar and Never Came Out. And if you want more open case files like this, you already know what to do next. If you made it this far, do me one favor. I pour a lot into these stories, time, care, and respect for everyone involved. If this way of telling a case reached you, please pause for a second. Tap like, share it with one person who'd appreciate it, and subscribe. That's how I know this work matters to you, and that you want more cases told this way. Thank you for being here.